Well, good morning, my friends. Good morning. Happy Sunday to you. I wonder if you'll join me by beginning our worship service here together with our call to worship. This is The Beautiful Words, a poem by the great African-American poet Langston Hughes. Will you join me? I dream a world where man, no other man will scorn, where love will bless the earth and peace its paths adorn. I dream a world where all will know sweet freedom's way, where greed no longer saps the soul, nor avarice blights our day. A world I dream where black or white, whatever race you be, will share the bounties of the earth, and everyone is free. Where wretchedness will hang its head, and joy like a pearl attends the needs of all humankind. Of such I dream. My world. I want you to join me now in an opening hymn. Beautiful, one of my favorite songs. I'm the light of the world. These are words based from the great theologian and mystic Howard Thurman. Will you join me in singing, I am the light of the world. You are the light of the world. Well, good morning, my friends. Welcome to our service today, coming to you live again from the studios here in Dunedin, Florida at Faith UCC on this second Sunday in February. And I just want to say a special happy Black History Month, and for all you lovebirds out there, happy Valentine's Day. I want to say a special welcome to all who are visiting with us this day. First-time visitors, return visitors, we are so delighted that you chose to spend some time with us this morning. Please know if you'd like to learn more about us, a great way to do that, about this church, this spiritual community, a great way to do that is to go ahead and get on our email newsletter list, and that goes out about every Thursday, usually between Thursday and Friday of each week, packed with all sorts of great information of upcoming events, news from the UCC in general, and Florida Conference and just things that we're up to. So just go ahead and email our office at office@faithucc.org, and we will go ahead and get you on that newsletter list. You can also visit our website, www.faithucc.org, and you can learn more about this great place there. So today is kind of another hybrid kind of service with some elements from some past services, though I am here live at the studios at Faith UCC. On a personal note, the past 2 weeks have been really quite a trying time in my life. As I said goodbye to a great dad and cleaned out his apartment and reminisced through pictures and old memorabilia and things that he held dear and held on to, and was able to spend some good time with my brother and sister as well, and just get some affairs in order. And then I think I endured the most harrowing drive back through snow and ice that I ever want to deal with. So all of you that are not in warm Florida, that are living in areas with ice and snow right now, just be careful out there. I saw that 100-car pileup in Fort Worth, and I went through very similar one of those in Arkansas. It's pretty harrowing, so just be careful out there, right? But for me personally, I just want to just thank you again for all the cards and the flowers and the cookies and the emails and texts and the poems, the calls, and just generally for holding me and my family in heart and prayer in this time. It means a lot, so thank you. Now a couple of announcements. Black Lives Matter conversation, racial equity conversation. There's going to be one tomorrow night. It's going to be happening to kind of discern our future in relation to racial justice and equity and how we can powerfully support the Black Lives Matter movement. A few weeks ago, I suggested that we paint in giant yellow letters, Black Lives Matter, on our roundabout out front. And well, let's just say it sparked quite a lot of conversation, which is great, because that's what we need. That's what we want. We want buy-in from everybody and feedback from everybody. So the leadership team lined up this meeting tomorrow night. It'll be led by a great racial equity group that they put together, Lee Harrington, Carl Van Meigen, Victor Lucas, and Johanna Perez. What an exciting group. So if you would like to participate in that, why don't you go ahead and contact, it's going to be again on Zoom at 7 o'clock. Contact our moderator, Fran Mitchell, and she will add you to the Zoom link or just send you the link. So 7 o'clock tomorrow night, let's get as many people as we can on there. It'd be great to hear your thoughts. And I'm going to share some thoughts later because part of my being in Minnesota, Minneapolis especially, was the opportunity to go down to the area where George Floyd was killed, was murdered, at the hands of the police. So I'll share thoughts on that this week and maybe more next week as I have some more time to debrief that. But let's just say it was really powerful, and it just makes me want to have us really get in this game. So thanks for this great group, and join in tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Hey, today would usually be like a super celebratory day for us. We'd be having a shorter service, and we'd be outside, and sure enough, it's a beautiful day. We'd be outside with, what do we usually do? Kind of burgers, messy burgers, margaritas, all that stuff. Well, obviously we can't do that this year. But I do want to at least get us together in some format. So I just thought, hey, let's do a check-in after this. We'll call it a Mardi Gras hospitality time. So if you have some fun stuff to put on and you want to get on Zoom, here is the Zoom code, and I also have it at the end on the last two screens of the service too. So you don't have to get it now; you can get it later. But yeah, we'll just check in and no agenda, just have some fun and have a margarita if you want, have a cup of coffee if you want. Eat some food, or just put on some wild wear. So I'll see you after the service, maybe around 11:30 for that. And we'll just talk as long as we want to talk. And that leads me to Lent, my friends. Can you believe that Lent starts on Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, or as I like to call it, Stardust Wednesday? So we are going to, even though we can't get together, we can't do our Ash thing that we usually do. We're still going to hold a service on Zoom at 7 o'clock. So it'll be a live service, short service, just to kick off the Lenten season with Ash Wednesday. I'll truly miss our annual soup supper that we had before it. I think we had a great crowd for it last year, and just lots of tasty soups to try, and just a great time of community. But we'll do something special on Wednesday night on Zoom. So please, if you can, part of the service, I'm trying to incorporate some objects from nature. So because it's really all about stardust and everything we share this cosmos with. So find an object if you're going to be a part of the service. Maybe go outside somewhere, go to the beach, or just outside in your yard, and find some kind of object from nature that means something to you. And instead of ashes, we're going to kind of focus on these objects that we're connected to in ways that we might not even comprehend. So 7 o'clock, right here on Zoom, Wednesday night. But please, however whether you attend that service or not, go ahead and try and make it a really meaningful Lent. Allow your busy, anxiety-laden spirits a break this year from all of the stress of the past year. Find some time this Lenten season to just breathe and to be and to rest, maybe to meditate or just to pray, do some sacred reading or read some other spiritual books. Maybe I'll share some that I'm reading right now in a newsletter, some of my favorites next week. One book I always do like to read is The Last Week by Marcus Borg and John Dominic Crossan. It's one of the best theological books that I've ever read. I try and go through it a little bit each year. So if there's interest, we could start a Lenten Zoom group once a week on an evening, maybe like a Thursday night or something. If anyone wants to read that with me again, that'd be great. So just email me, call me, text me, IHOP me, whatever works. Call the church and leave a message. Send a pigeon with your information. It's fine. Well, just get that to me somehow, and then we'll go ahead and form a group and get going, and I'll send out more information on that book. So if you're interested, contact me. I'd love a group to read it with. A couple of concerns before we delve more deeply into this service. Please continue to hold Pat Sargent and the Sargent family on the death of their beloved Bob, our beloved Bob, 2 weeks ago today. Just a sad day. We lost a great man. So may peace be powerfully with the Sargent family in these days. Thinking of you, Pat, and then your family. And please hold Jim Peterson in heart and prayer as well. He lost a sister-in-law. I thought it was his sister, but he clarified it. It's his sister-in-law, Tammy. And he also spent the time in the hospital with some dizziness. He's home now, though, and he's resting. So Jim, we're thinking about you as well this day. Sorry for your loss. And also, please hold Johanna Perez and her two wonderful kids, Alana and Liam. I have a picture here. On the loss of their beloved canine friend, Madison, a great Pyrenees that was such an important part of their family, a sweet companion who loved children and cats. Yes, cats. Let us hold Liam. I think that's a picture of Liam right there, laying on the furry friend and their family in our hearts this day for their loss and amidst their grief. Liam and Lana, we are thinking of both of you this day. We're sorry for your loss of a dear friend. Hey, I want to shift through a couple of joys here. How about those Tampa Bay Buccaneers, huh, everybody? Woo! Sure enough, we finally make the Super Bowl. Somebody makes a Super Bowl in a town I'm in, and I'm not here. So go figure. But anyway, hey, great win. Exciting. I know a bunch of you were pretty excited about it. Some of you just don't care. That's fine. But to those who are excited about it, way to go, Buccaneers. And kind of a tie into that, a couple of joys on Brian Craig. First, how awesome was it that lifelong Tom Brady, Brian's a chaplain and seeking ordination and a member here at Faith UCC, and he's from New England, Boston area, so he's been a Tom Brady fan his entire life. He got a free ticket to go to the Super Bowl last week as one of those 7,500 vaccinated healthcare workers. I mean, what a dream come true. So how cool for Brian. And also second on Brian, hold him in your hearts and prayers. He will be going before the entire Florida Conference Committee on Ministry, which I sit on. I think he's been slated for the March meeting for his ecclesiastical council, and really the final step before a committee vote on his being granted approval for ordination. So I'm not worried about Brian. He's going to do fine. He's just a great guy. But we're thinking about you, Brian, and we're excited for you, and we can't wait to celebrate with you as that day approaches and watch your future unfold. So peace be with you, my friend. And finally, happy Valentine's Day to all who are celebrating today. It's good to be back with you, my friends. Let's journey ever deeper into this service with a time of centering.
Lord, Lord, open unto me. Open unto me light for my darkness. Open courage for my fear. Open unto me hope for my despair. Open unto me peace for my turmoil. Open unto me joy for my sorrow. Open unto me strength for my weakness. Open unto me wisdom for my confusion. Open unto me forgiveness for my sins. Open unto me tenderness for my toughness. Open unto me love for my hates. Open unto me thyself for myself. Lord, Lord, open unto me.
Our scripture reading today comes from the book of Exodus. As Moses prepares to lead the scared and struggling Israelites out from under the yoke of oppression as slaves in Egypt. Well, there was a powerful belief among the people, that God had sent them a liberator in Moses, and that God was powerfully present in the midst of their journey to freedom. Harriet Tubman was often called by those she liberated Moses. People also felt that God was powerfully with her as she too guided the oppressed and enslaved through the wilderness to a promised land of freedom. Hear these words with these stories in mind from the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verses 10 through 14. As Pharaoh drew near, the Israelites looked back, and there were the Egyptians advancing on them. In great fear, the Israelites cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you have taken us away to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, bringing us out of Egypt? Is this not the very thing we told you in Egypt? Let us alone and let us serve the Egyptians? For it would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." But Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the deliverance that God will accomplish for you today. The Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. God will fight for you, and you have only to keep still." In this story, the strong experience of the presence of God in all times of our journeys is brought fully alive. So they prayed for clear nights, when the moon would offer its light and the stars would shine brightly overhead. The moon would offer just enough light for them to travel unnoticed, and the stars and constellations, such as the Big Dipper, would guide them like a map on their dangerous journey north. So silently through the night, always after dark, they would walk quietly along rivers, through farm fields and forests, over mountain passes, and along the sandy beaches of the ocean. They would go completely silent, the only sounds made being their nervous breathing and their soft footsteps, occasionally the soft sung melody of a spiritual song. Single file, they journeyed through the night, trying to reach a safe destination, a house, a barn, a field, where they could hunker down when the sun's rays returned, and evil men with their barking dogs stirred behind them. At each of these stops on what were called underground railroads, brave women and men provided rest and food and water and a moment of safety to the escaped slaves and their brave conductors that led them. And then when the night returned into its perilous darkness, they would set off yet again on their journey to liberation and freedom. One particular railroad route that ran from Maryland north to Pennsylvania, New York, and Canada, on that route, a legendary woman would often be found guiding a group of escaping slaves to freedom. She was barely 5 feet tall. She couldn't read. Because of head trauma suffered as a child, she suffered from narcolepsy, which she was known to just often kind of fall asleep. But she also embodied a tenacious courage and a staunch belief in the power of a person to change the world, and an unwavering faith in a God that was guiding her every action as she journeyed time and again through those fields and along those rivers and under those stars in the dark of night. We know her today as Harriet Tubman, though she was not always known by that name. And it is that story I want to tell today as we continue our celebration of Black History Month, by entering her story and her journey as she went from a young slave girl called Minty to a liberator called Moses, and eventually, all the way soon, finally, onto the face of our $20 bills. Her story is nothing short of an inspiring story of courage, faith, and trust in a God who will never leave her, especially in the most fearful and scary of times. Now, the woman we know as today as Harriet Tubman was born in Dorchester County, Maryland, sometime around the year 1820, to the parents Harriet Green and Benjamin Ross. Perhaps some of you might know this history from seeing the movie Harriet. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you watch it today. Her birth name was actually Araminta Ross, but her parents called her Minty. Minty was born on a plantation and spent her early life as a slave along with her family. Obviously, her life was cruel and it was oppressive. One quote attributed to her is this, quote, "Slavery is the next thing to hell," end quote. I think that goes without saying. Young Minty endured whippings and beatings at the hands of her cruel masters, but she didn't let the fear of this deter her from risking her well-being for the sake of others, even at an early age. She breathed compassion for those who shared her plight. The story of the head injury that plagued her all her life stems from a situation she intervened in when she saw an overseer, slave owner, about to throw a heavy weight at a recently returned fugitive slave. She tried to stop him. She took him on, this little girl, and she ended up taking the brunt force of the weight of that weight to her own head. In her words, "The weight broke my skull. They carried me to the house all bleeding and fainting. I had no bed, no place to lay down at all," end quote. She was only given a day or so to heal before she was sent back out into the fields. Again, in her own words, "with blood and sweat rolling down my face until I couldn't see." Truly, as she said, slavery was the next thing to hell. In 1844, Minty was allowed to marry and married a free man named John Tubman, a marriage that never really amounted to anything except giving her a new last name. And in 1949, after her owner had died, I hate even saying that, a new owner refused to grant the family freedom, as had been stipulated in the deceased man's will. They didn't go for it. He was instead going to split the family up and sell them off one by one. So Minty decided the time was right then and there and began an escape plan with two of her brothers, though her husband didn't want to go. So the plan didn't last long, however, as the brothers soon changed their minds and Minty was forced to return with them. But she would not stay long. She sensed liberation. She had this growing sense that through these intense visions and a voice from the God she so trusted, the God who led Moses and the Israelites from their bondage in Egypt to the freedom of that promised land. So she changed her name and she adopted her mother's name, Harriet, shedding her child name of Minty so it would be harder to track her down, harder to find her. And she set off, as she said, bound for the promised land. Now her journey was dangerous, and she likely used the help of a growing number of underground railroads and allies that helped along the way, namely a lot of the Quakers and the Congregationalists that are our forebears that were active in Maryland at the time and helping slaves escape. She traveled 90 miles, all of it at night and on foot, likely traveling up through Delaware and finally onto free soil in Pennsylvania. According to Tubman biographer Sarah Bradford, Tubman recounted that moment of freedom, saying, quote, "When I found I had crossed that line, I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees and over the fields. I felt like I was in heaven." End quote. Araminta Ross, former slave in Maryland, now became Harriet Tubman, a free woman in Pennsylvania. Her story could have ended right there. She could have just settled into her new life and enjoyed her freedom. We probably would not know her name or her story today. But her destiny was not to remain just Harriet Tubman of Pennsylvania. Her transformation was not yet complete. The God she held so firmly to had just guided her on that journey to freedom had more in store for her still. This God had raised up a Moses once before, and it was time to raise up a Moses yet again. So over the next 11 years, this new Moses, like the one of old, led her people through the wilderness to freedom again and again and again, developing her own secret routes on the Underground Railroad and setting up her own network of allies along the way. Some estimates say she went back into the heart of slavery and the plantation some 19 times and led around 300 people out. Other estimates say she took about 13 and liberated around 70 to 100 people. Either way, the courage it took to go back into slave territory from the safety of a free state with the evils of that Fugitive Slave Act in full swing is nothing short of the essence of remarkable bravery. Like Moses long ago, who held an unwavering trust in a God that liberates and would see them through, this woman, who folks were now literally calling Moses, trusted very much the same thing. Thomas Garrett, a well-known abolitionist Quaker, once said of her, quote, "I never met with any person of any color who had more confidence in the voice of God as spoken directly to her soul," end quote. And she used that confident trust in the God that inhabited the very fabric of her being, that spoke within her soul to find the courage to do the unthinkable and the dangerous. If she ever would have been caught, imagine what she would have faced. She would likely have been made an example of and killed in the very least, or very badly tortured and then killed. They would have made a point of her. But she didn't let that stop her from her liberating work. As Rebecca Price Janney wrote in her great work on women in American history, quote, "No fear of the lash, the bloodhound, or the fiery stake could divert her from her self-imposed task of leading as many possible of her people from the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage to freedom." Striking, the similarities between our own scripture from today, from Exodus, and the story of Harriet Tubman's life. We lifted several similarities up. They both tell of a people in slavery. They both tell of a journey to freedom. They both tell of fear and risk in undertaking that journey. And they both tell of the trust and faith in God as a force or essence that brings an abiding sense of courage and trust within the midst of the journey and in the lives of those making it. I love that image of Moses as the Israelites are are fleeing the Egyptian army and see nothing but water in front of them and war horses and chariots behind them. And the people are scared, saying they should have just stayed as slaves because surely now they're going to die by the riverbanks. I love how he just calmly says to them, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Be still. For God is with us and will give us the faith and the courage to overcome even this challenge from the Egyptians. He confidently says, the Egyptians behind you, well, you'll never see them again. Trust in it. Be still. Don't be afraid. Harriet Tubman, our Moses, no doubt, she knew this story well. And it was a part of her very being. This said her mother told her Bible stories while she was growing up, and she took them to memory and heart and made them real in her life. No doubt by the cause she gave her life to. But this story was at the heart of her strong faith. And that mantra of do not be afraid and be still, literally in many times of danger for her, and though she led, well, they guided her every waking moment on those perilous journeys. And even later, as she became a national hero amidst the Civil War through risking her life again and again. Be not afraid, Harriet. Be not afraid. In fact, she knew the Bible well, which she likely did. If she knew the Bible well, which she likely did, then she would have heard that phrase over and over again. We talk about it all the time here because it occurs hundreds of times. Like Rosa Parks, whose story we journeyed into last year, who used the 23rd Psalm to calm her in her silent moment of protest, and for whom the words "be still" offered up courage to face any fear. Harriet Tubman used this story of liberation and the belief that God is there whispering in her ear or emanating from her soul to be not afraid. For I'm a part of you and I will bring you peace and you just need to trust it. That's a powerful thing, my friends, to take from this story of Harriet Moses Tubman. So be awed by her story as a great person, definitely, but be moved by her faith that when times are bleak, there is a presence that struggles and gives you the courage to be, and the courage to go on, and the courage to always make the journey. My hope today through this sermon is that this story of how Minty became Moses will inspire you to keep telling the story of this amazing American and her courage to change the world. But I also hope it offers you a story to fall back on when the times might be hard for you as well, when you feel as though you're on your own perilous, risky journey. I mean, these are stories, after all, about never letting fear overtake you and leave you helpless, alone, and afraid. I mean, whether you or maybe somebody you know are struggling with a health condition, I know there's so many out there, these stories remind you not to be afraid. There's a presence right there giving you hope and courage. And maybe you're looking at making a major change in your life. Well, don't be afraid. That presence is also there and will always be amidst that journey. Maybe you're grieving the death of a beloved husband or father or sister-in-law or a cherished canine friend that your kids adored. Past Sergeant Jim Peterson, my own family, and Johanna Perez and Lana and Liam. I'm thinking of you. Maybe the grief at times can seem overwhelming. Well, these stories remind you powerfully, don't be afraid. You're not alone. But you're held in the mystery of love that you can't even imagine, but just need to trust. And let's say you're facing treatment or surgery in times of uncertainty and recovery. Don't be afraid. Perhaps you're supporting someone through an intense time of mental illness. Don't be afraid. There's a presence calling you to be still and not let fear have its paralyzing say. Maybe you find yourself beside the bed of a loved one in hospice who is dying and you're offering support and care. Well, then trust that there is an essence that is giving you the strength to endure these tough times and whispering in your ear to fear not and don't be afraid. For God is closer to you than the beat of your own heart. If I've been called to do one thing in this job that I do as I preach week in, week out, well, it's to herald just that. It's because it forms the foundation of my entire theological overview. It's to help us to get over the idea that there's some guy in the sky that's going to fix all the pain for us or inflict the pain on us, and in many cases, bad theology. And instead helps us to realize that there is something so much more intimate and present and mysterious and closer than we've ever been given the freedom to experience. And that is ultimately where we find God. And it's that presence of God that was powerfully with Moses, well before there was any Bible to believe in, and was powerfully with Harriet, as she later learned of it from her mother's voice through Moses' experiences long ago. They both model for us that faith is not about believing. Faith is about trusting. Trusting that this mystery we name God is a part of us, and there's nothing we can do about it but accept it and bask in its glow. This mystery is there in the good times and in the bad times, among the joys and the concerns, amidst the freedom and the bondage, among the losings and the findings. It will never let us go. So I thank Harriet Tubman, through her life courageously lived, for teaching us this lesson. And I cannot wait to soon see her gazing back at me from a $20 bill as a reminder of the amazing person that she was. I hope you found some real power in her story and can use it to overcome the hurdles in your own life. And I continue to wish you a blessed and meaningful Black History Month. Amen. Now let's have a flashback moment, and one of the best of the past year, as we listen again to an amazing song and video from Annie Deschamps, as she asks us a question, probably one similar to what Tubman asked herself. What kind of change am I? What kind of change are you?
I can't pretend that I'm the one who has been put upon. I can't pretend that I am not to blame for measuring the state of things by how it's treating me, believing we're treated all the same. I was thinking that our history had nothing to do with me. I wasn't there, no blood is on my hands. But if I tremble at the cross of Jesus, then the words I can't breathe mean I gotta understand. Are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. Are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. Hey, what kind of change am I? What kind of change are you? Come on, listen to our brothers, love our sisters, love each other. The call ain't nothing new. What kind of change are you? I'll tell you that I traveled far down the road with my guitar. I know in every city that I go, the poorest part of town is always black or brown, and there ain't no one there I would ever know. They're tearing down the Family Dollar, putting up an ice cream parlor. $7 to buy a gourmet cone. We keep draining all the color till we'll never know each other. Neighborhoods are lines that we have drawn. Are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. Are you ready? Yes, I'm ready. Hey, what kind of change am I? What kind of change are you? Come on and listen to our brothers, love our sisters, love each other. The call ain't nothing new. What kind of change are
I love that song and that video. Hey, if you want to hear more, you can find that on YouTube. Go ahead and give Annie DeShawn, she was here, for any of you that don't know, maybe new to what we've done here in the past. She was here with Fry Gaillard, who also wrote that song. They're so great, these two. And they were here and did a concert for us, and it was fantastic. We'll get them back here again someday in the near future when we are meeting again, which I hope is sooner than later. So watch for news. We'll definitely get her back here for a big concert. So and give her a follow on Twitter. She puts out great stuff every day. It's Anne, A-N-N-E-D-E, E middle, and then DeShant, D-E-C-H-A-N-T. She's on Twitter, she's on Facebook, Instagram, I'm sure as well. So give her a follow, because that song was great. What kind of change are we? What kind of change are you? And what kind of change do we want to be? I would just shift gears with me just for a moment here, and let's just have a time of prayer together and centering. And I want to pray these words, a beautiful prayer by Maya Angelou, one of the greats in our history of words and spirit. What a poet. What a presence. Hear these words from Maya. I invite you just to close your eyes and maybe take a few centering breaths before we pray these words. Take just a moment for some inner stillness and silent prayer. Father, Mother God, thank you for your presence during the hard and mean days, for then we have you to lean upon. Thank you for your presence during the bright and sunny days, for then we can share that which we have with those who have less. Thank you for your presence during the holy days, for then we are able to celebrate you and our families and our friends. For those who have no voice, we ask you to speak. For those who feel unworthy, we ask you to pour out your love in waterfalls of tenderness. For those who live in pain, we ask you to bathe them in a river of your healing. For those who are lonely, we ask you to keep them company. For those who are depressed, we ask you to shower upon them the light of hope. Dear Creator, you, the borderless sea of substance, we ask you to give to all the world that which we need most: peace. I wonder if you'll join me now in a beautiful interpretation of the Lord's Prayer. O breathing life, your name shines everywhere. Release a space to plant your presence here. Envision your I can now. Embody your desire in every light and form. Grow through us this moment's bread and wisdom. Untie the knots of failure binding us, as we release the strands we hold of others' faults. Help us not forget our source, yet free us from not being in the present. From you arises every vision, power, and song, from gathering to gathering. Amen. And may our future actions grow from here. Well, my friends, I hope you found this service a meaningful service. And if you did, and you'd like to make an investment in the work that we do here, please go ahead and visit our website at right below me here, faithucc.org. And you'll find a link to Vanco. You'll find a link to PayPal. You can give that way. You can always send in a check to the church, whatever works for you. Just know how appreciated all of your giving is. You're such a generous community, and that means so much for the work that we want to do together. So thank you for all of your generosity. Hey, I just wanted to share this picture behind me. It comes from the site outside of Cup Foods, where George Floyd was murdered again. And I tell you, it was the day after my dad died, and I just needed to debrief and get out, and it was like 28, so it was somewhat comfortable. So I drove to this site. I really wanted to see it, and I'd had it on my list of places to get to. And I spent like 2 hours here just walking around. It was such I call it holy ground, and I don't mean that in any, it's holy because I think something's springing from there. I think there's a new movement, the movement that's been there galvanized in this place, and you feel it when you're there. You feel the inequity and racial injustice, yet you feel that something's changed. I met people from all over the place, a guy from Washington, another from California, some others, and they traveled there just to see this site. Here's some of the other, this is right where George Floyd was killed, right in the very spot. They've actually built a labyrinth all around. It's beautiful with candles, and it's really something to see and behold, and something to hopefully feel like, okay, this can lead to some change. So I want to show these as we go into that conversation tomorrow night, led by our group. That there's things we can do. There's ways we can speak out. There's things we can put on our walls, our driveways. But what more do we want to do than that? But we need to start shining as a symbol of racial justice, and make a bold statement that begins here in this house of worship, in this community. So I hope you join in tomorrow night. Again, go ahead and email or call Fran to get that information, and she'll add you onto that list. And I'm going to speak more of this. There's definitely many sermons in this visit. I just haven't had a lot of time to unpack it yet, because it was a pretty emotional visit and it was an emotional time. So, but just know this is quite a sight. I mean, if you're ever up in Minneapolis, or you're watching this from Minneapolis and you haven't been there, go on down there and just maybe wait till it warms up. But then go on down there and give it some time. It'll move you and inspire you to want to make some change, to be the change, as Annie Deschamps said, and change the future. Looking forward to tomorrow night, my friends. Hey, if you want to join again, I'm going to put I have the Zoom code on the next two screens, our benediction song and our final song. So join me after, right around 11:30, and we'll just have a little Mardi Gras check-in and see what's going on in all your lives. So I'll either see you after here, or maybe I'll see you Wednesday night, or I'll see you next Sunday, or sometime in between. I wish you a blessed week. Happy Valentine's Day, and have a blessed continuation of this month celebrating Black history. Now let's sing our way out of here. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with us.
Us.